Yep, what's going on, people? Um, Turn this music down a little bit. Yeah, let me go to a scripture real quick. Okay, I'm going to go here first. Um, right. So I believe the title of this one is "Blessed are those who read it," and that is very, very important. And not only read, but read with understanding, nonetheless, and also, of course, with the spirit of the Father, should be present, as well. And I trust that because, I do see a lot of my brothers who read and bring some of the understanding for. And again, I've always been someone, that's a candid, listener of, the knowledge that they were bringing forth and that they still bring forth. I'm someone who listens very frequently, I must say, to a lot of the brothers from GMS. And, again, I shout out, those brothers mainly because, I see them as having what I would consider to be the truth. That being said, I can also say I see, those brothers still being very slack in some of their understanding. And I say that with all due respect, not a jab at all, but, coming from, again, someone who's been a candid listener and someone who's still, to this time, a very, you know, uh, strong listener to those brothers because, again, they sing the song, they're sighing and crying, okay, to the, for the abominations that have been done to the children of the Father. But with that being said, I still see that, they lack some of the, the understanding that I feel that the Father is giving his children, the true meat in due season. Okay, so this is not to put those brothers in a place where they shouldn't be listened to, but more so or less to also look at that, the Father has sent some others that are among them that have another way of seeing these scriptures being broke down. And so I'm going to do my part as far as doing that and give some understanding to what I see. I was on YouTube and I post something similar to this video. I think I had some footage in the video that was under copyright. I'm sorry, under copyright law. So they pulled the video down. So I'm gonna do another attempt at trying to stay on that same path as best as I can without tearing off, which I may do. So I'm gonna warn people. I do that every so often, and it's not because I'm you know an expert at linguistics and formalities and when you're giving your information. A lot of times it's hard, but as best as I can, I'm gonna try to get through this here. So as I was saying, I'm gonna go to. I'm gonna start off at in Acts, right, the 20th chapter. I'm sorry, the 20th verse, and maybe I'll go further. You'll see. Okay, so anybody who's with me now, I want you guys to go to Acts 7:20. So it says here, in which time Moses was born. Okay, in which time Moses was born and was exceeding fair. Okay, and nourished up in his father's house 3 months. So okay, some people would read that and, look at it as a historical, event. I'm someone who sees, again, the scriptures very different than my brothers nowadays. And this is something that I would say probably started, um, it's been a little bit of a up and downward hill, I would say. And it's a reason for that. I think the Father does bring us through these things, only to, of course, eventually see things His way. You see, so it is somewhat of a fight, but more so or less, it's a win when it comes to the Father because He gets what He wants, right? So that being said, I had no understanding that I would not accept the Bible as an actual historical event, but more so or less as a spiritual understanding of hidden knowledge. So this is where I see the Bible nowadays, and it's amazing because I've been blessed because of these things. So, um, for a lot of people who probably, um, have had the same experience, welcome aboard. This is the time that we've been looking for. Okay, welcome aboard. We are at the end. And we are those people who the Father is speaking to, the ones who can hear, okay, and understand the place, that we're in, and accept the leader that the Father has chosen for them, to listen to and hear. Okay, so okay, I'm gonna try to my best to break that down. Okay, so again, it says, in which time, in which time, right, Moses was born. Okay, so born in this case can also mean born again. You know what I'm saying? Come into his understanding. Okay, nonetheless, he was a young person, but someone who the Father spoke to and through. Okay, because you would say 40 years, 40 something years, or even just the whole story of him being in the basket, and taken, through the river or this, the valley or what have you, into the, arms of the Pharaoh's daughter is a literal thing. I mean, some people imagine that way. I myself have done that. But, now I'm willing to grow up. Okay? I'm willing to grow up and put aside childish things. So those are, would be the fairy tales. And look at those things from a spiritual understanding. Is that cool? All right. So okay, the nourishing, and he was nourished up in his father's house for 3 months. So 3 months in some ways in a spiritual sense would be 3 days. Am I wrong about that? Okay. I think it would be considered 3 days to the Father. Okay. But nonetheless, 3 days can also mean years, right? It can mean a completion of years, even more so or less. Okay. So it says also in 21, verse 21, it says, and when he was cast out. And there's a reason why I put emphasis on cast out, because this is another thing that we see that pops up in a lot of the stories, the folklore, okay? The allegories, they're always cast out from their place. So it's usually either where you look at the stories of Thor. If anyone's familiar with the movie of Thor, he was also cast out. Okay, so he was cast out because of his pride. Okay, And this, have also been one of the identifiers used to put the so-called white man in that same category. And I have to agree with that because, again, when you look at his status as far as his pride, the fact that he almost has this willingness not to obey, he's not humble. He doesn't have any trial. He hasn't gone through anything. He hasn't been someone who's been looked down on or not looked at, pretty much. He hasn't had these things. He's been someone everyone cheered on pretty much most of his life, encouraged him. Okay? So, when you look at Loki in the movie, Loki was more the one that was willing to obey his father's ways. But he also seen that his brother, you know, was a problem, so he took things in his own hands, which in some ways some people would look at as, a problem. But in a way, it was a way of humbling his brother and showing his brother, I mean, it was, a trickster way, it was a deceitful way, but nonetheless, it was his way of trying to show his brother, that you're not all that, you know. So, I mean, and that's what I picked up from the movie. Maybe it's a little, some people seeing something different, but I seen it kind of like that. So, this is the reason why, when you look at cast out in some ways, it shows you that he was humbled. Okay? So that's what it means when cast out means cut off. Cast out, humbled. Okay? It's not an actual casting out, it's a humbling. Okay? Cast out of heaven. In other words, out of the goodly things, the protection. Even more so, even though he was protected, but he was in harm's way. So when he was put in that bassinet or that basket and sent, you know, he was in harm's way. That's like walking through the valley of the shadow of death. You see? So he's walking through the valley of shadow of death. But like in that sense, he was cast out into the Pharaoh's daughter's arms. She took him up. So in other words, she took him up. She fed him. You see? She nourished him as her own son, the Pharaoh's daughter. And when you look at the Pharaoh's daughter, she's a princess. See? So she showed him her ways. The Pharaoh's daughter, she took care of him. She nursed him. She made sure that, but she probably, lacked in some things as well, because if that was the case, he would have probably remained there. But he had to leave. So, but nonetheless, being that she took him up and she nursed him, the Pharaoh's daughter, right? So she showed him her ways, which is probably what we see today. The feminist movement. She's pretty much the, she's showing him how women dominate over the men. She's showing him, how women are pretty much the ones who are our biggest enemy in this world. The fact that we have to pander to their ways, their law. We have to listen to how they and what they say when they don't see nothing that's going on in the world. And we do, as men, we hear the Father loud and clear. Again, I listen to my brothers from GMS because they're singing the song of Moses. Okay? So that sounds like music to my ears when I listen to them brothers. So I'm not going to, diss them brothers and say no, they can't preach, because to me they're singing the song of Moses. You know, they're speaking about the abominations and saying, "Let my people go." Ain't that the song of Moses? I don't know what people consider the song of Moses, but that's what I see the song of Moses being. So that's why that hymn, it attracts me, you know, because I like listening to that song. You know, I may not know all the words like they do, but you know, for what it's worth, I can sing what I do know. So guess what? When I sing it, they will recognize me too, because they hear me singing the same song. Feel me? You feel me? So that's how I see it, man. Now again, you know, she nourished him, true, but then it was time for him to go and become a man, okay? To be about his father's business. So when you see Moses, Moses represents the Son of God, okay? He was on his father's business. So now you look at it, now he's like, okay, he was learned in all the wisdom of the Egyptians, okay? Let me turn on some music because I don't know why it went off. I'm turning it on a little bit, not too loud, not too loud. Just a little bit. But yeah, rock with me though, y'all. Like rock with me. Um, I just realized something too. I didn't change this picture on my on the I forget the damn thing. But anyway, pardon me on that, y'all. Cause if y'all do see this video, hopefully y'all look at it and you know, just peep it for what it, you know, what I'm saying versus, you know, what you came up here for. Because again, I'm not here to try to like sway anybody's mind into what I'm saying, but I'm basically trying to build, you know, and practice my speech. This is what I come to practice, you know, because again, you know, I see the direction that the Father's sending me into, you know. So again, you know, for anyone who is like-minded, you know, pick up your cross and follow me, because I'm saying some things that, you know, again, people need to understand. You know, the Father's gonna bless me with, you know, everything. You know what I'm saying? So that's how I look at it. It's like, yo, you know, now I see what I'm up against when I look at the world. I see what I'm up against because a lot of them don't see it. They don't understand, but I see it. So it's like, that's why I know that this means, you know, Moses is me, because again, I have the understanding and the wisdom of the Egyptians. See what I'm saying? And that's what I'm trying to make people understand about, you know, Loki and about Odin. You know, all of these things have a lot to do with the Father, man. They just don't know it. You see what I'm saying? Like, you know, the brothers even go as far as to say, you know, the right hand and the left hand. So yeah, we coming into the right hand knowledge. So this is where I'm trying to bring my people into. You got to understand that's a lot. That has a lot to do with us, and our knowledge is spread all over the world. So this is what the Father's doing, yo. He's bringing up a son, his king, to gather those nations from all the four corners, all that wisdom and knowledge, and bring it into his fold. Because those are the people who the Father is speaking to, and they're going to hear him. The ones who trust him, you know, trust in his son first and foremost. So again, you know, people can look at it and say, well, you know, we all leaders, but you have to first and foremost, you got to trust in the you know the one leader before. You got to have a leader before you say that you're a leader. How are you going to be a leader and everybody, you know, is going in a different direction? If you're a leader, then you're leading someone to the person who's leading you. That's how that works, man. You know, that's how that works, man. You can't be, people always want to be. You see, that's the thing. Why? Because most people have this knowledge and this wisdom, and they gain so much people and so much trust. Now they can't humble themselves. Now they can't humble themselves. Now they can't give all that they have. You see, that's what his father, he was saying to his son, through the Messiah, Christ. He said, yo, if you want to come into my fold, give all that you have to the poor and become like them, because that's the only way I'm going to accept you. You ain't going to come like how you want. You have to come like how I'm looking for you to come. But see, he couldn't do that. And that's what I see amongst most of our people. They're no different. They can't do it. They can't humble themselves because, again, they've gotten so puffed up in their, in the fact that they have all these likes, all of these people who have been following them. And now, look, they can't hear the Son of God. But maybe now they probably will because, I'm noticing that they're supposedly going to be trimming down a lot of the fat on the internet, which may be something, the Father's doing initially for, for his people. And we just don't know it, It's a secret, but it's just one of those things that's going to be a blessing to us, But we'll see. We'll see how this works because, again, I'm someone who's new to this. I don't do this very often, but when I do, this is how I come across. And it's very sincere. I'm not trying to, make any money off of anyone. But again, I do have a lot of understanding and knowledge of these things that are hidden. And that's, pretty much what I'm focused on. I'm focused on getting that truth out and letting people see that, there's another way of looking at things, and not everything that we deem to be evil is actually evil. So, okay, when we come doing things and make, and having powers, who are we going to say, if it, what could we say if it looks evil to the people who are against it? But at the end of the day, the Father gave us it. Y'all want to believe that it came from the devil, then by all means, believe it that it came from the devil. But for me, it came from the Father. And if the Father is the devil, then so be it. If the Father is Satan, then so be it. Because if it's going to be what is going to bring justice into the world, you okay? And we know if we are in the same mind now at this time, and we know who our oppressor is, and we know who our enemy is, then who would have a problem with us coming into power? I'm just saying, like, if we know who our enemy is now, right, and the Father bless us with voodoo or whatever power that the Father uses in order to bring our enemies down to a level, right? Who are we to argue that if it looked like voodoo? If it is voodoo, you know what I'm saying? Like, who's us? Who are we to argue that? I'm someone who, again, I mean, skulls and bones and stuff like that. I would always been someone that been like, hell no. In a lot of ways, I'm still kind of like, skeptical of everything. I don't just jump everything because I see, people messing with skulls and bones and rolling, knuckles, chicken knuckles or pig knuckles or whatever the hell. you know, like I don't jump to that, but I look at it as now I do understand it. So I have a whole nother type of respect for it. And I believe, the Father's ways is that way. We just don't understand it. I do believe that, man. Because if you think about a lot of these women, I mean, these witches and these, warlocks, men, they what they would call witch doctors, you know, their stuff and the things that they had were outlawed. Again, this is what the so-called white man will do. He will always paint a lot of these things that people don't understand, or maybe he don't understand, as negative or something wrong. But then when we look into it now we're asking for it. Now we want it. Now we want it. But before we was like, no, that's the devil. That's the devil. That's Satan. You know. But when it comes to using it against our enemies, now we want it though. Okay. Because, I mean, the Bible did say something about eating flesh and drinking blood. Nobody's saying nothing about that. And if you say that to anybody, who's supposedly against these things, you know, that's what you do, they would condemn you. They would say that you were a witch or something, right? If you say you drink blood and eat flesh, they would say that you're a witch. But mind you, their Bible says it. And they even do the act of doing it. They even do the act. They go through the whole seance and don't see it as nothing else other than them just, you know, it's, and mind you, the flesh has to be white. It has to be white flesh. A damn cracker, a wafer, whatever you want to call it. But anyway, I didn't come up here to ramble too long. I did say I was gonna go further, but I'll leave it just where it's at right now. I think I did reach the time that I wanted to as well. But that being said, stick around, man. I have a lot more things that I want to kind of bring across. I, again, I need a little feedback from the people out there just to let you know. Let me know that you're feeling me, and I do appreciate anyone who does pay attention to the things I say because I think these are definitely coming from a sincere place and something that again only like-minded people will be able to understand. So I'm out of here, man. Guys, take care. Peace.